I'm going to just share my screen here because we were talking about this offline with this new deal. And I'm going to actually have an episode that's coming out soon on the details of Transfigura. I know that's not exactly how it's pronounced, but forgive me. So with the supply chain carbon emissions platform market, like they were outlining how they had 10 million supply chain flows already integrated from, they were running this in the acquire phase, looking at the Palantir build model, right? They still do that acquire, scale, expand.
Yep.
And they realized value so quickly. Then all of a sudden they're like, well, we'll soon be up to 700 million in here. And you see the value realized the more and more people that come into this platform. And so then they struck up this partnership. So I would envision that they would basically call this, for whatever Transfigure is, whatever they want to name it, their platform that would be like Skywise. It would be their platform for carbon emissions. And now and they came, but here's the beauty of it. They came out with Foundry for carbon emissions and 0 day, what am I trying to say? Net zero carbon emissions. And they came out with that like I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe even a year ago.
Yep.
And now you're seeing it applied to customers.
Yep.
So is it fair to say, I don't know what you can and can't say, but is it fair to say that when they make those announcements, those products and modularized were probably based off of some kind of customer relationship that they're working through in that first initial stage, and probably saying, you know what, we can do Foundry for crypto, we can fix the blockchain, or we can do Hyundai and transportation. Yep. So it's almost like they're finding out that they can build these certain platforms and that everybody has these certain problems.
I don't want to speculate too much, but
yeah, we're all speculating, but
I would, and again, I'm speaking for myself too, not Palantir. So
yeah,
I do have a relationship with Palantir. Full disclosure, I have access. Yeah. They want me to say I need to say I've.
Yeah, say your disclaimer here now.
One, not investment advice. Number two, I have access to a free Foundry stack, and I do have a relationship with them in the developer space. But so I'm speaking for myself. But like, if I were, the analogy I always give is, if I were Andy Jassy back in the early days of cloud, right, and I weren't selling 3 services, IAM, S3, and EC2, right? But instead was selling.
Andy Jassy, that's the CEO.
That was the guy that was the former. I think he's now
of AWS.
Yeah, but he ran web services, the AWS web services division forever.
Yep.
But like, if I was Andy Jassy back in the day trying to sell the entire Amazon Death Star of all 200 plus services the day I went to market, everyone would have told him to fuck off, because no one would have been able to wrap their head around that, right? Mm-hmm. And so what you need to do with a product like Foundry that is hundreds of microservices, it's hundreds of services, it's an incredibly deep platform that'll take you a really long time to understand, is you need to give people archetypes that apply directly to what problems they're trying to solve, and having all these Foundry for crypto, Foundry for carbon emission, Foundry for hyper auto, it goes straight to the heart of like, this is how if you knew what you were doing and you were trained and certified and you had 2 years of experience, maybe this is what you would do to operationalize your data. You Hyundai Heavy Industries, like whatever
Transfigura, but I know that's not how you pronounce
it. But like that, I think that's really where this all comes from, is that they're trying to show people the applications of their product without them having to invest in learning it, and then they can more easily position it and sell it to them. But like, as to, are they doing that with a customer relationship? I mean, if I had an industry expert, I wouldn't need one. I would just have an industry expert that would tell me like, where are the problems.
There you go. Tell me what that'd be a good thing to do, is just say, let's understand these industries.
Yeah.
Let's understand the problems that these industries have.
Yep.
Now let's go build out our teams to go fix these problems. And
now apply that to the guy who just took over from SAP, it was Salesforce. They just hired like a new head of sales for Europe that just came over from Salesforce, and like, so maybe they're going after CRM next, like, who knows?
Hyperauto, isn't that CRM?
Well, no, Hyperauto is more like supply chain management and stuff like that. So
really, I thought thought that they had a use case there for unified.
They might. They might. I don't know if they do. Like, the part I was focused on was like where they're rebalancing parts between different plants and stuff like that.
Okay. I think maybe just one of the use cases in their videos, because I know when I got to speak to a sales rep at Palantir, they said, hey, we do this a lot. A lot of people have multiple ERP systems, multiple CRMs.
Yeah, it's like you didn't just get one of these, you got like 10 headaches, 10 ERPs.
Exactly.
All like 100 plugins on each one. So
we covered the industry piece, and I think they're going to do the same thing with Rubicon Technologies with waste management.
But I would pay close attention to who the big hires they make as an indicator too, like a leading.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that. Let's talk about hiring. We've seen all over Twitter, and I've checked in also on LinkedIn. That LinkedIn only just shows that, hey, we're growing at 10% rate already of adding new employees. That's massive, especially considering we're in a time where everyone's on a hiring freeze or a layoff.
It's like 120 or 150,000 layoffs last month in tech.
Yeah.
Google and Coinbase, I know, both rescinded offers for people who had already accepted, but before their first day rescinded. I think several companies did that. Everyone's hitting the pause button, and this is going to get way worse. Like in my opinion, what's being driven in the macro right now is like no one knows where the bottom is. No one knows how bad this can get, and so everyone's afraid, and that leads to guidance that's like buckle down. Don't look for money. Yep. Figure out, get a 3-year plan together.
Survive, right? Like
survive. Exactly.
And that's where, once again, not financial advice, but I do like, when I invest, I like to make sure a company has no debt, or their debt could be paid off in cash in full.
Yep.
And they have high gross margins, reoccurring revenue, and high revenue growth. And they have something there that customers can't walk away from, right? And Palantir has all of that. And then sure enough, we laughed about it months ago, and they got about their $50 million of gold, and they said there's going to be a black swan event. I don't know. This looks pretty black swan to me.
I can't comment on the company financials again.
Yeah. I'm just saying though, like our housing market interest rates from January were 3%. Now it's 6.5. By the end of December, it could be up to 7.5, 8.
Everybody be telling their significant other, like, don't get you too used to that Zillow estimate.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And you can't sell because it's like, where do I go?
What are you gonna buy, dude? Like, we have a national housing shortage, and
I mean, I just heard on the news today now it's you were having people bid on houses. Now they're bidding on renting because they can't afford the mortgage to get a new house. So now they're bidding to rent. God. It's like, that's red flag on the field.
Well, I mean, bring it back to the hiring. Is like the cool thing is, so like my company, we're continuing to grow, and our goal is like, when the dust settles, we're going to be the only one left, and we're going to grow and we're going to dominate, and I think Palantir's strategy, if that happens, like, because so many good people are being laid off too, like if this gets really bad, people will be going to Palantir, they're not going to wait to get laid off. And like, they're already a hard company to get hired at. They're right up there with probably harder than a lot of FANG companies. But like, if the top talent decides to exit or gets laid off or whatever, like Palantir is going to have a field day. They're going to collect serious wins on the hiring front.
I would agree.
Maybe get some wins they couldn't have gotten at another time,
No, so, I would agree with that. So they still have
every company that's looking to grow and scale through this is looking at the layoffs, and they have a list, I'm sure, of people there.
Yeah, there's the people are watching LinkedIn more than ever. So we've covered the industry solutions. We've covered the CI/CD pipeline and how they're leveraging delivery of apps and the differentiations there, and also the macro of just how they're investing now for the future. Let's kind of talk also too about what Alex said in the interview 3 weeks now ago, when he was interviewed by CNBC at the World Economic Forum, and they said, do you check the stock price? He had to retract what he said, because we know he checks the stock price.
You have to. I mean, it's
I don't trust you say you don't. So I don't know why he said that, but he then goes and says, well, no, because then the CNBC guy goes, well, do you care about your shareholders, your employees who are having to see everything they've worked for, crumble down to 75%? He's like, if you're a shareholder of us, and I said this from day one when we went public, is it's not about what we're doing now. You should be concerned about what are we going to be like in 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
what you're investing. That is what, and he has said, and I stand by that. Like he said numerous times, he said, if you don't have a long time horizon, we are not the stock for you, because
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I
we
mean,
are
but
building.
again, I can't comment on the
Yeah,
stock.
yeah, we don't talk about the stock, but just that they are thinking big. They're not
I
going
agree
after
that
small
he
problems.
had to retract his comments. I mean, everyone knows that you have to. I mean, it's part of your board meetings. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it
Um,
it comes into the financial guidance thing, and like a lot of decisions are made based on market conditions. Let's put it that way. You know?
sure, sure. And I think one of the things that give me confidence in their mission and their execution, because I know we were pretty tough on them a couple of podcasts ago when I was with Chris, Amit, and Sakjan. Yes, there's other companies that have better salesmanship and delivery. We talked
Yeah,
about this last time, Microsoft, and how Satya Nadella did the data mesh delivery.
let me
And
try and I've heard all those conversations, but let me try and make my case for carp is really a measure of a good leader is often to to be right, number one. Like you gotta be fucking right, okay? And number two is you need to keep everyone aligned, you know? Like everyone has to believe in the mission. Everyone has to know they this is achievable and they need to believe that it's right. And I think Carp gets points on both those fronts, you know?
I would
He's
hold,
fucking right.
so agree.
And yeah, and everyone at Palantir, from what I've seen interacting, is so aligned and deeply respects that man, like 100,000%. I don't care who you go to at Palantir, like they're gonna respect Alex Carp, you know. So that's pretty epic leadership. I mean, and they're not small. They're not a big company, but they're not small either. You know, they're in that sort of mid
From what
phase.
I've heard and seen, they're not losing talent. People
No,
want to stay there. They are
yeah,
mission driven. So, to your point,
yep,
they have a vision and a
yep,
mission and a focus, and
yep.
people want to follow him.
And the main reason I started really getting into Palantir was I felt like well, now I know we definitely share a common vision on a lot of levels, you know, like both with the future, about tech, you know, just a lot of things. So I think that you got to give them and who the fuck else would be able to pull that off, especially in
Right,
tech today, you know,
right.
that's hard, man. Like
Well, and let's
most people in tech are fucking stakeholder capitalists and are jumping between companies and they're just there collecting RSUs half the time.
seriously,
You know?
seriously, and
Yeah.
let's give him credit for way back when he took him to Colorado,
Hmm.
right? They were before Elon left California, right? And then
Yeah.
Elon, went to Texas, and other organizations started leaving Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess my point on the sales execution is that they still can make it easier to understand what they're doing and quantify the ROI and take some of those best practices that other organizations, the industry itself in general, does with
Yeah.
case studies and how they market things and customer testimonials. I know there's certain things they can't share depending on what the product is, et cetera.
Yep.
But once they clean that up and get that, some of those things that the industry retains and digests very easily,
Yep.
all of a sudden the light bulb gets quicker, right?
Yeah, you know, and that would be my case against Alex Carp. You know, it's like, I got the case for it, I got the case against, but obviously I believe the case for is 10
Yeah,
times.
yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, no, and I mean, honestly, I think that also is cultural, you know, I don't know if they get to the point where they're like everyone else, but I don't know if they need to either, you know, because
That's
the
true.
tech is that good. But let's just say there is a very much like a streak to Carp that's sort of anti-establishment in a way, you know.
Mhm,
If
mhm.
you look into his background and statements he's made, it kind of comes across that way as well. But to him, the sales guys are like the dudes in, you know, the suits, and it's like, you know, Silicon Valley where the sales guys are like, you know, struggling against the engineers. Like, that's not what my product does, dude. Don't sell it that way, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And I've heard him make comments where, you know, hey, we're not going to sell out, is what it sounds like, you know.
yeah,
I were to distill it down into
yeah.
but really what he fails to miss is that to be able to scale, market, and sell a product efficiently is in itself innovation. Like that is on par with the same level of innovation you're creating in the software. It's just a different kind of innovation. And like companies that are successful at doing that shit, 90% of the reason they succeeded is because they innovated on that front, you know? Because technology, little known secret, given enough time, anything can be done. Anything can be replicated, you know? I mean, if you're the Chinese
Well, there's a
government, you
first
know that,
mover
right? Like
advantage,
Chinese government does a really good job of copying shit, right?
right? Yeah, they do.
So like the dirty secret in tech is that like almost anyone can recreate what you've created, you know?
Yeah.
But it takes a special organization that can operationalize it and sell it at a profit and scale it out to tens of thousands of employees. That's fucking hard, you know? So like that, I think on a cultural level, they're making the right hires, I think, to like bring in that
Yeah.
innovation. It seems like it, you know?
It's so spot on what you said there. We saw the Salesforce guy. There's other people from multiple commercial
Oracle, they
organizations.
picked up a hire from Oracle,
Yep.
he jumped ship, you know?
And it's not selling out. It's, I think you
No.
said earlier offline, it's meeting the customer where they are.
Yeah, exactly. You have to meet the customer where they're at, you know?
Can you elaborate on that for our audience? Because I think
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
big point to not miss.
So like Palantir's got a product that they will often say the industry doesn't yet know they need it, you know? And it's because they have a way of operating that is several years ahead of any other way you would probably operate. Like we were talking earlier about how we're changing SaaS, like, but every other company is thinking like, how do I integrate more SaaS? You know, like it's only now that there's these like leading indicators that people are going to start asking these questions. And so you can't speak in a way in which the customer just can't relate to you, you know, like, and or worse, like what you're saying alienates or threatens them in some way, you know?
Or makes them feel inferior.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So like meeting the customer where they are is speaking a language they understand and solving a problem they know they need to solve, you know, and then leading them to the place where they need to get to. You know, they need to get to this other place, but you're going to help them along the way with lots of wins and lots of education. But you need to have a way to approach them that is speaking their language and solving real tangible problems they can put their finger on today, you know.
Okay, so let me pause you there because I have a question for you. You're the expert here.
So
Could they, or do you think that the product can be simplified enough to where specific simple problems within IT can be solved and sold, I don't know, let's just say below 100K for the SMB customer? Can you solve IT challenges in different things with Foundry, or do you have to buy the whole kit and caboodle and it just can't be compacted down to that?
They're kind of two unrelated questions. I'll answer them separately, but I'll give you an answer for
Yeah,
both.
yeah, sure.
The the cost the cost issue is yeah, you can Foundry can reach the SMB market for sure. It's when they want to do that, you know.
True.
So like
Good point.
but yeah, there's nothing that I would say would be ingrained in the technology or like some problem in the technology that wouldn't allow them to offer it that way. And so I think it's just they have a roadmap and a plan of when they want to get there, and that's
Sure,
not
sure.
right now.
Because
But
there's
like
not a lot of overheaded software, right? I mean,
I mean, there can
not
be
a whole
like
bunch of capex that they have to do to spin up
it's
a
weird.
Foundry
I mean,
light.
there are ways in which you can make a product more multi-tenant friendly and therefore lower your operations costs. And I've done videos on those related to like a pool model versus a silo model for
Mhm.
SaaS. And there are definite operational efficiencies in cost. You can drive down cost differently in those models. So like, but I think with Palantir right now, their main focus hasn't been to reach the SMB space, and it's really been to, you
Yeah,
know,
and I would agree with that. And we had conversations. It's
yep,
not right. I mean, hey, if you can get a $50 million contract or a 100K deal, which one are you going to spend? And they
yep,
probably are going to take the same amount of sales cycle.
yeah.
You're going to go
Well, you
take
can
care of
and
this.
also like those big customers will generate more network effects more quickly, you know, because they're automatically coming with an affiliate pool of hundreds of people, you know, or hundreds of other companies. So like you get one of those big companies, you've now got a network of like 50 to 100 other companies that you're automatically going to go after, and like so you can start generating network effects much faster than if you're in the SMB space where no one works together. Like, you know,
Listeners, listen to this man. He knows what he's talking about. Like, there's a reason because people get so impatient, don't we all?
yeah,
We all
you gotta
want
be
our cake
patient.
to eat it too, and we want to see our big returns. But let's take a step back and look at their customer base.
Yep.
These aren't just any old enterprise customers.
Look
When you look
across
at
every damn industry. Like
exactly
find an industry that's
strategic,
not.
right? And you don't see this like BP. You're looking at Hyundai, Stellantis with eight
Yep.
EVs and so you start seeing this and it's like network effects, network effects,
Exactly.
network effects.
Exactly. That's what
So I
people
think
gotta.
you got to think that way,
Yeah.
or else you take it for granted. Well, they only have 250 some odd customers with all the agencies, government, maybe call it 400.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but these are, I mean, good luck. Who else do you know who's retained the army and the military government for 17 years as a customer?
Yeah, I mean, dude, like these guys can they know what they're doing, and so again, this comes back to the CEO. He just has to be right, you know. But
Yeah,
I think he is. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I think the strategy is going to be proven right. Um, but and we'll all be thanking Carp for it eventually. I hope. I mean, at the end of the day, I think people just need to chill out a little bit
yeah.
and you know,
It's only been benign in public 2 years.
I would also say like don't threaten, don't criticize things you don't fully understand either. Like if you haven't if you haven't watched this podcast, maybe you don't know any of this stuff yet. You know, maybe not be so quick to criticize
If
when you
you
don't know.
don't, not and I'm not trying to discourage listeners and viewers of if you don't understand the technical aspects that you can't invest in Palantir.
Yep.
But don't throw stones at a glass house if you haven't understood what are the challenges that developers have with CI/CD pipeline. What
Yeah,
are the
exactly.
challenges? Because then you appreciate
Yeah.
the 10x.
It's
Like
like
it's
don't get
one
mad
thing.
at a strategy just because you don't understand it. Like try
Yes.
and steel man it, you know, and go like what would be the possible reasons I would do this, you know?
Yes.
And steel man it, and then you might go, oh, okay, that might make sense in this context, but you have to be right. You know, motherfucker has to be right, you know.
And that's where I guess you have to know, and I've always said this in investing is know your time horizon,
Yep.
know your risk level.
I don't want to talk about the investment side, but let's
Sorry,
just talk
sorry,
about
sorry,
the
sorry, sorry,
strategy side.
sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, sorry. What's that, sorry?
All right, let's bring it back to the strategy
Financial
part.
advice is just
Yeah.
saying, do your research, right? And,
Yeah.
and if you need money, don't put it in the market if you needed to pay your house off. Like think smart, like think logically. Make sure because things will take time to develop, and I don't think people have given Palantir time to evolve. I mean, it's not like they're deep in debt or anything. They're building world-changing technology.
Yep.
And once
And
again,
I wasn't speaking to the investment strategy of people. I was speaking more to like the criticism of Carp over the go-to-market strategy, which I also am critical of. But I'm critical because I understand it, but I'm critical because it's a high risk, high reward strategy, you know?
yes,
And
yes,
if and I always say the competition gets a vote, right? So like you have a strategy, you may play out perfect, but if the competition gets a vote, motherfucker, and if Microsoft and like Snowflake start eating away at your potential customer base, that
that's
changes the game.
there you
You know?
go. That's my that I won't say that's my bear case. I'll say that's my mindful risk management thinking of
Yeah.
you only have, as you said, as the technologist,
You don't have forever.
you only have so much time before people start to catch up and realize you're onto something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then people will emulate and you'll get 20 copies of the same idea. Like we see that all the time across SaaS, you know. So like
Oh yeah.
50 million SaaS products that all look identical, you know.
Oh,
So as I mean, this is part
you
and parcel
said
of the
it.
industry. Yeah. So like the competition gets a vote, and so the execution risk is huge if they're even if they're right on where you need like all of this building the verticals and everything, what the effects down market can have a huge effect on you, you know, like, and unfortunately that's just the reality that the rate of adoption in technology often dictates like who wins in the end. And it's often like a good I remember someone in my comment section had said, hey, give me some examples of inferior technology that wins, and like I responded within about 15 or 20 minutes off the top of my head, and I was like, well, Redshift, I mean, it's like probably the worst columnar database, and it has 65% of the market.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's a low friction offering from Amazon. And we can go down the list of Amazon services that are the exact same thing, worst tech, but has the biggest adoption rate, right?
Isn't that
And
amazing?
yeah, but it's like that is when I say things that can happen down market, because the thing that has the highest adoption rate also has the highest certification rate and has the highest developer adoption rate. And like and so like these things start to snowball, and it's like, well, if only 10 people are trained in Foundry and there's 10,000 that are trained in this other thing, me as an organization, I start making different decisions based on the talent pool, not the technology, you know?
Do you think that IBM and Accenture can help with that? Do you think that they do we need do we need to
I
see?
was very unimpressed with IBM's sales team, to be honest.
I can't say any comments, but I met some IBM people and I will plead the fifth.
Yeah, I was very unimpressed, and so no, I don't think Palantir's getting nearly as much out of it as IBM is with the ability to get contacts and maybe have meetings they wouldn't otherwise have. You know,
What
is my
about Accenture? Accenture's a big one, and I'd love to see them
but
get.
that was pre-existing, right? I mean, that'd been around for like 5 years, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. I guess what I'm to your point about certifications, I want to see a Foundry certification program that's fully
Mhm.
excited. Let's get everyone learning. Let's get and then all of a sudden you go to the masses, right? Because
Yep,
Cisco built a business. I
yep,
mean, built a entire framework to hold, make a networking guy feel special because he has a Cisco certification. You're not going to fire me. You're going to pay my six-figure salary
yep, yep, yep,
because I'm certified in Cisco and you need Cisco. And
yep,
this was years ago and things of the world's changed, but I could just see that, like, if you have the tech that's 10x better and you
yep.
teach people, and I would think that would be more affordable than hiring a mass amount of employees.
Yeah, yeah.
Now there's some risk around people goofing up stuff and not delivering the product as it should
The
be, or
dev community and the certifications are huge. Yeah, like I always say, like don't overthink it. It's a prereq. Like this is prereq. You have to do this. And for all the reasons you mentioned, not the least of which is like the developers have a vested financial interest in certifying on platforms that get them big opportunities.
Mhm.
Um, and the more of those opportunities are out there, it's like it's becomes this snowball, and like everyone wants to cert. Right now, the certifications are closed, so you have to be a Foundry customer to get
Mhm.
into the certification. But I will say the training materials are awesome. Foundry, when you install it, comes with a whole Foundry Academy, and it's got like all of the
Really?
yeah training videos, documentation,
That's
exercises.
encouraging.
Yeah, it's really cool, and like I was able to learn a ton. So I think most developers could probably just get access to Foundry, go through the academy, and take the certification, and they're good to go. Um, I think that for them to open it to the public could also be like you could do it in a 2-day intensive. Like go to a conference 2 days and you're certified. At least at the lowest level. Like not high level
But maybe
certification.
that goes to when they're ready to do that, when they
Yeah,
want. It's
yeah,
their.
when they want to. But I think that's coming. Like I do believe that you'll see the beginnings of that soon. Because I've been working with their developer advocacy group and like trying to figure out ways in which we can engage developers immediately too, even if they don't have Foundry access. And so from the momentum that I'm seeing them put into that, even those conversations, along with some other talks we're having, like I think they're getting ready. So
I mean, yeah, I was gonna say, like, where you've been around in all the different technologies and different sectors,
yep,
where do developers go to see, hey, this is everyone's using this? Like, I always heard, like, on Motley Fool, they'd talk about, hey, you want to see if a stock's really good on software, go to GitHub and see what people are saying or how much downloads they get. So MongoDB gets a ton.
yeah, yeah.
um is there things that they can be doing there in that arena or advocacy somewhere to get the word out that, hey, we got this awesome platform that will make your life easier?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm an advocate for them, but like getting
Yeah, but we want more advocates.
I brought them a couple that hopefully you'll hear about soon. So yeah, uh, there are going to be what you I guess you would call influencers, in tech.
Palantir, I'd like to do a side hustle influence. I'm your guy right here. Yeah, see, I
Well,
love your platform. More
I think there'll be a set of
sales. I can't
right,
do the
right.
developer stuff.
I think influencers are a good way to introduce developers if they're respected and they can like also reach a certain amount of other developers. And that is a good way to like get credibility. Like, so like, because developers are approached every day for new tech, like not
Mhm.
only via email and spam, but like just
Yeah, I
in
was gonna say, because people keep their developers locked up. You don't get, you don't get
but like Slack too, you know, like
yeah.
we all have channels in Slack where we like post new tech and talk about it, you know. So you're constantly seeing new stuff, but the general attitude is like fucked and one more thing that does this thing and like, oh my God,
Mhm.
really? And like
Mhm.
I just spent 2 years implementing this other platform. Why would I switch over to this other one? And someone's got an argument for or against that.
And that what you just said there is so key.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on
Yeah,
technical,
there's a high switching cost once you've adopted a
yes,
technology, you know. So like because
even
like
if
what
it's
happens,
inferior, right?
well, yeah, even if it's inferior, because like what you're doing is you're building all this tooling around it, you know, like for example, like at my work, we use React, you know, and we use Next.js and NX, which is like tools for building a mono repo and then also tools for building React applications. But then we enhance it. We built an entire framework on top of it with our own tooling, our own automation, our own training materials, our own boot camp. We have an early development pipeline for apprenticeship opportunities built on that. Like